Hey guys, welcome back to another video of Marvel Contest of Champions, and today we're going to be talking about the very next champion to be coming to the contest, Black Widow Claire Voyant. Now, I feel like this is kind of needless to say. For 2019, we are very much so in need of a good, new Mystic champion. So far, it's honestly been a flop. Diablo and Ebony Maw were very disappointing, very underwhelming, and we need somebody good to join the Mystic roster of the contest, and that's where a lot of people were hoping Black Widow Claire Voyant was going to fall into. She was going to have that role of an amazing Mystic, and now, I'm going to be completely honest, at first, she really looked like she was going to be another disappointment. That being said, I may have been a little bit quick to judge. Now, yesterday was the first day that I actually got access to her, and the rest of everybody in the content creator program got access to her. And honestly, I didn't get a whole lot of time to play with her. I got to do like half a dozen fights, whatever it was. And at first, it was like, oh no, are you kidding? Another one? Another dud in the Mystic Champion class. But I don't know if they've done some tweaks with her or what, or maybe just I've done a little bit more reading is also part of it, but people have just had a little bit more time to work with her, and they're finding things that are actually making her look a lot better than our initial thoughts. Now, the very first fight that you guys should be watching might even already be over by now. I forget the exact timing of it, but the very first fight that I had against her, or with her, sorry, not against her, but was against a Hulk. Now, this is the Hulk that's at the beginning of the Maestro quest, in the story quest, whatever it is, Act 4, Chapter 6, whatever, Chapter 4, whatever it's called, I forget exactly, but anyway, that Hulk is at the very beginning there, and that's usually the champion that I like to go and fight against first. It's about the same level as the champion that I'm getting through the content creator program, so usually it's a pretty fair fight. Now, when I first started that fight, I got my first couple hits off, my jaw dropped. I looked at the amount of damage that I was doing to him, and my jaw literally dropped. It was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And that was like the initial just thought of just, oh my god, it's another dud. It literally threw me off for the entire fight. The rest of that fight, I played horribly, but it's because I was so surprised and so shocked at the little damage she was doing. It literally threw me off for the rest of the fight. Now, I was a little late getting access to Claire Voyant, I'll admit that. They were a little late adding her to my account and whatnot, so I got to see a few posts about her going in. I tried to avoid it as much as I could, but there were a couple that I ended up seeing on like my Twitter feed and whatnot, and at first, that's what I was seeing a lot of, was very underwhelming damage and whatnot, and it was just like, oh no, here we go again. But like I said, I don't know if they've done some tweaks to her or whatnot, or just as people are getting more use out of her, and I myself have gotten to play her more and read about her more, she's looking a lot better than what she did in like the first hour of me playing with her. I can't lie. But the main thing about her that I think is going to be really great is her utility. Her package is very interesting. She's got a lot of potentially very useful abilities, but some of them are very limited. Now, the first, I'm kind of gonna go into her, like, her signature ability first, I guess is what I'll talk about. That's kind of first on the list here. Now, her signature ability is literally called Death Immunity. Pretty much sums it up. Now, basically what this is that when you get really low on health, this will activate. It's a buff that when you should be receiving hits that would basically KO you or kill you or whatever, basically it's kind of like with Punisher and Hela's ability, where they basically become like invincible for a few seconds just to make them last a little bit longer. It's the same kind of deal. However, the difference with hers is that it doesn't last as long from what I understand, but also you have a little bit of a regeneration. You will earn X amount or X percent of health back over 4 seconds of her max health, pardon me, over 4 seconds here. Now, the current version I have is a maxed out 4-star version. Currently it's saying just under 19% of your health back in 4 seconds. Now, I have seen some clips of the 5-star version as well. It's a little bit more than that. I think it's a little over 20. I think it's somewhere between 20 and 30. I think the highest I've seen was like 28% or something like that. And that's actually pretty awesome. Like, that's like just kind of like a second life. It's kind of like Nick Fury's ability, where he literally has a second life, but you don't have that extra degeneration applied to you as well. So that's pretty cool. She's got as well, while I haven't experienced it myself, I've seen some clips of some other regeneration that she has incorporated with some of her other abilities. I'll get into it in a little second here, but she's got some surprisingly nice regenerative abilities overall. But the main thing that has caught my attention, and I'm very interested to see how this will be used in the future here, are some abilities. She's got these abilities that are called curses. Now there's a couple different types of curses. Ones that they're all buffs basically, but one that will be applied to you, one that'll be applied to the enemy, which in that case it's a debuff. But the first set of curses that she has here are called the Curse of the Black Widow. Now there's 3 different types of curses, and I'll get into those in a second, but I'll just read off what it says here. So it says Claire has 3 types of curses, each providing her with a different immunity. However, only one curse can be active at a time. By default, the Curse of Blood is active, landing a 4th light attack causes the next curse in the following order, casts the next curse in the following order. And the curses that she has, are the Curse of Blood, the Curse of Plague, and the Curse of Hellfire. Now, when you have the Curse of the Black Widow activated, when you have the Curse of the Black Widow ability activated, and it's the specific Curse of Blood, it's a little confusing, I know, but specifically the Curse of Blood that's activated, you have bleed immunity for however long it takes you to get a 4th light attack off. The next one, though, the Curse of Plague, brings poison immunity, and the last one, the Curse of Hellfire, brings incinerate ability. So I kind of want to say, like, the conversation for this ability, like, I want to say, like, the developers and whatnot, the conversation was going, people go crazy when we have, like, double immunity champions. Those are super well sought after. So why don't we just throw something at them? How's about instead of a double immunity, we give them a triple immunity? And that's kind of what Black Widow Claire Voyant is. Of course, the way to balance that out, I guess, is the fact that you can only have one at a time, but the fact that you can cycle through these immunities is pretty cool. And again, I'm excited to see how this is going to be used later on, because certain characters will have multiple degenerative abilities. So if you can have a character that that has some sort of mix of bleed, poison, and or incinerate, she could be a really powerful character to fight against that. Now, these abilities, these 3 curses, the Curse of Blood, the Curse of Plague, and the Curse of Hellfire, have other effects later on. So I'll just continue reading here. The next part of it is the debuff that will be applied to your enemy. This is part of the Curse of Damnation. So it says here, finishing a combo with a medium attack inflicts 1 debuff, throwing a heavy attack or special one inflicts up to 3 debuffs. These debuffs are determined by Claire's active curse and last for 8 seconds. So depending on which curse you have activated, Blood, Plague, or Hellfire, you will have one of the following, one or 3 of the following debuffs activated. Again, it's a little confusing. If you actually read it for yourself, it'll probably make a little bit more sense. But if you finish your combo on one of these attacks and you have the Curse of Blood, activated, you will inflict. English for me is failing right now. You will inflict a bleed debuff on your opponent, dealing direct damage, which will be X number depending on how leveled up and how awakened your character is, but it'll inflict X amount of bleed damage as direct damage. The next one, the Curse of Plague, will inflict a poison debuff, again inflicting X amount of damage as direct damage, but it also reduces health recovery by 30%. So that's awesome. Not quite a heal block there, but a good help with dealing with regenerative abilities. English is failing me today. I'm so sorry. But the next one, Curse of Hellfire, will inflict an incinerate ability, dealing again direct damage. However, this one will remove all chances of a perfect block and will also reduce your opponent's block proficiency by 50%. So again, these abilities have multiple uses, and they even continue on as well. As you go into your Special Attack 2 and your Special Attack 3, you will have different effects applied depending on which curse is active. Now, I'm looking at my time here. I've been rambling on a little bit too much here, so what I think I'll do is I'll just throw up an image of this one if you want to read it over. Pause the video and read it over yourself. But yeah, these curses, again, I'm interested to see how they'll be used, because, like, you know, you might be up against a character where you really need this one curse to be active, but for whatever reason you're not getting it, or it's like the last one that you need. So for a while there, she might be like in that fight, she might be a really bad choice, but once she gets these certain immunities and debuffs active, she might be a real like god against a certain character. So I think it's really going to be up to the players to use her properly and figure out the best way to use these immunities as well as these debuffs. So it's at least it seems like a very confusing ability when you kind of try to explain it, but at the same time it seems like it just might be super useful. So I'm excited to see again what's going to come next with her. But the next thing, I'm looking at my notes here, I forgot to talk about one thing. One thing I meant to talk about was I kind of mentioned it at the beginning there, was her damage output. Now, like I said, at first it seemed very underwhelming and very disappointing. However, what I've heard though, actually, specifically from the 5-star version, which I don't have access to, but other content creators do, from what I've heard though, her base attack is actually really high for the 5-star version, because I believe everybody gets access to, I think it's a rank 3 5-star, and from what I've heard though, it's like the third high, it's not third highest, but it's really high up there, basically, in like a comparison to other champions and whatnot. Her base damage is really high. The downside is sometimes it takes a little while to get her ramped up, which I think is what I was encountering in my first few fights. Like I said, against Hulk, the first couple hits did next to nothing, but once I think you get certain buffs and debuffs activated and whatnot, she can become very useful. It's just a little bit tricky to get things going. At least that's my understanding of it so far. But anyway, yeah, that's just what I wanted to briefly mention. That is just, it seems like she has a strong base. It's just maybe I was doing something wrong and didn't quite... Basically, I may have messed up or done something wrong at the start to not get the kind of results that I was supposed to get. But one of the last abilities I want to talk about is a specific synergy that she has. Now, at first, I honestly thought this ability was going to be like next to useless. I was talking to another content creator on Discord in that. I'm not sure which parts of his name. In Discord he goes by DBO, but I believe he's part of like a channel called Canal K9. I maybe pronounced it, I'm not sure. He's a Brazilian content creator, so maybe the pronunciation of that is a little off, I'm not sure. But anyway, I was talking to him because he posted a picture of this synergy, and I hadn't had access to the champion yet, so it's the first time I was seeing this synergy ability, and at first it seemed like it actually might be like kind of a useless ability. It's called Fire and Forget. It's a synergy that you can have when you with either Sunspot, Human Torch, or Mephisto. Now, I'll just read off what it says here. So it says, whenever the opponent is immune to Incinerate, they're inflicted with a slow debuff for 8 seconds, reducing the ability accuracy of Unstoppable and Evade effects by 100%. This debuff does not stack and will not trigger if the opponent has neutral class advantage. Yada yada yada, the basic stuff there. But this thing with like saying like very specific, if you're in a very specific fight and these very specific conditions are met, you will bypass Unstoppable and Evade. And it's kind of like, that's like super duper specific, and you're not gonna come across a scenario like that. Well, I opened my big mouth, and literally 20 minutes later, I was able to use this synergy in a very useful way, and we had another conversation, kind of was grown from this happening. But I was in a fight with Abomination. It might be a clip that I'm showing in here as well. I think from the note he was starting off the fight with the Unstoppable ability, which is like, oh great, I just gotta dodge for X amount of seconds. But with this synergy, I was like, you know what, screw it, let's see if I can attack and see if this does anything. The first few hits I got off him did nothing. He was still hitting me, I was hitting him, but we were just kind of punching each other with nobody doing anything really. But it was about 4 or 5 hits in, I managed to get a hit off on him that staggered him back like you normally would. Of course, when you have the Unstoppable ability active, they don't stagger back. But this time he did, and I glanced up at like the list of buffs that he had under his health bar and whatnot, and the Unstoppable ability was just gone. No, it wasn't that it timed out, it still had about half the timer left on it, but just because of this synergy, I was able to basically bypass and basically deactivate the Unstoppable ability, which was like, oh, so that's what that does. That's actually really cool and really good. Again, probably like a very situational ability, but at the same time, that could potentially have a lot of use if you know there's going to be a certain champion that you'll be going up against that's like immune to Incinerate and has the Unstoppable or Evade abilities. she might be a really good counter for that. One champion I saw his name getting thrown around quite a bit was actually Annihilus. You also have, with that, you also have the class advantage as well. So Claire Voyant might actually be a really good counter to Annihilus. Again, it just depends on which buffs and debuffs you have active at the time, but she could be potentially a very good counter for Annihilus. But yeah, it was just kind of funny, like, both of us were just kind of talking trash about this ability, and then it was like, oh, okay, that's actually, okay, I see that. We both kind of just went like, oh, okay, now we see the use of this, and we just kind of shut up shortly after that. But we got talking about other stuff as well. But that was kind of like a funny, just kind of conversation that we had there. And yeah, so it was a surprisingly, I didn't expect to use it, but it's kind of like, okay, I can use this now. But yeah, again, just the emphasis on that one is it looks like it's going to be a very like champion specific, a very specific fight, specific node kind of ability that you would use if you know like there's a variant you're going into, or like a Act 6 quest that you're going into where you have like a specific boss that you know is going to have X and Y abilities and whatnot. Then then Claire Voyant might be useful for that. But other than that, she might not be your best choice. Like, she has a lot of potential. I think it's just I think she's gonna be a very like specific fight champion. Again, I might be interpreting everything here. I might be way off. But that's just my original thoughts. I'm looking at my time now. I've been rambling on way too long. The last thing I'm just going to throw in here is just taking a look at her player model and her animations. She looks absolutely badass. I love her character style. She kind of gives us, for me at least, a very Halloween vibe. Maybe she would have been a cool character to get around Halloween. But her animations are great. The player model, I totally blanked on the words there, but the player model looks awesome all around. She looks really badass. So I was really disappointed at first when she was like, seemed very underwhelming, but she looked really cool. So it was like, ah, crap, but I want to use her though. But now it seems like she might have some uses, so we'll just have to see kind of what happens in the next little while. As more people get access to her, more people will find out things about her and be like, hey, you can do this, and everybody will start using her for that thing. But again, we'll just have to wait and see what it's gonna be like in the future. But as for me though, that is gonna be it. Again, I've been rambling on too long, so I'm just gonna say thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, and if you like this kind of stuff, we got lots of it coming out all the time, so feel free to subscribe to the channel. Excuse me. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, and yeah, social media, whatnot, links are in the description below as well. Go check that out. And yeah, I think that's it. So once again, thank you all so much for watching, taking our first look at Black Widow Claire Voyant, the next champion to enter the contest, Marvel Contest Champions, that is. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.